you are back from working on these. Let's kind of see how we ended up here. For this one, I can combine these terms together to start with, so that's going to be negative 3x greater than or equal to 18. Now, I'm looking at this, I know I'm going to divide by negative 3 here to cancel that out, so I'm going to immediately flip my sign around because I know that if I divide or multiply by a negative, that sign's getting flipped. So my answer is going to be x is less than or equal to divided by negative 3 is going to be negative 6. Okay? So now what I asked you to do is write it with the x first, and it already is, which is good. So now I'm just going to make a very simple graph here. I'm going to put negative 6. X needs to be less than or equal to negative 6. So that would be filled in dot, arrow in the direction of less than. And negative 7 would be over here. Okay. So now I want to pick a number and make sure that it makes sense here. And if you get a longer equation, like this one will be a longer one, this one is even probably long enough, go to the simplified version of it to check. What I mean by that is come to this part of it right there when you've combined those two together and pick something. So let's pick something that's going to fit this. Let's say we pick negative 10 because negative 10 is going to be out there, negative 10 is going to work. So negative 3 times negative 10 is going to be positive 30. Positive 30 is greater than or equal to 18, so that works out. So we're saying that anything that's smaller than or equal to negative 6 would fit into our original equation. Moving on to this one. This one's only got one step to it. This is a divide by negative 3, so I need to multiply by negative 3. I need to do the opposite. Multiply by negative 3 is going to cancel this part out right here. Okay? Since I multiplied by a negative, I've got to flip that sign around. So it's going to be x is less than, and then I have to do the same thing the other side, multiply by negative 3. 10 times negative 3, negative 30. There's your answer. X is written first, so we should be in good shape. So if I graph this, negative 30, we've got our open circle here because it's not or equal to, and then I need negative 30 is bigger than x, so x is less than negative 30, so I need smaller than negative 30, so it'd be going this way. So I'd have like negative 31 over here. So let's try a few things here. Let's see, negative 60 would be out here, so let's do negative 60, and our original equation was this. Okay, if I replace this with negative 60 divided by negative 3 is positive 20. Positive 20 is bigger than 10, so we know that anything to the left of negative 30 is going to be a solution for the actual equation. Coming down to this guy. Combining some things together here. Negative 3 and negative 7 make negative 10. Got that symbol right there. Can't combine anything on this side. Okay, looks like I have to do a minus 6. And then a minus 6 would be negative 16, less than or equal to 2x. Now, I'm going to divide here, but it's not by a negative, so I don't flip the sign. I'm actually dividing by a positive number. So if I divide by 2, okay, and I divide this side by 2, negative 16 divided by 2, I'm running out of room here, negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8, so I have negative 8 is less than or equal to x, because that canceled out right there. I want to write this the other direction, because I want the x to be first, so that'd be x is greater than or equal to negative 8. Now, let's go to our simplified form of the equation, and make sure that this makes sense here. That was plus 6. And I'm not going to use this one, I'm going to use the one that's the most simplified here. So I need to pick something that is x is big, has to be bigger than or equal to negative 8. Okay? Why don't I just do 0? 0 is bigger than or equal to negative 8. So I'll just put 0 in for x here. 2 times 0, of course, is 0. So now if I look and see what I have left here, and read it to make sure it's true, negative 10 is less than or equal to 6. That works, that makes sense. Anything that is, I forgot to draw the graph here, negative 8, closed circle, x has got to be bigger than that. Anything that's bigger than negative 8 will fit into this equation and will be a solution. And again, we did not flip the sign around because we weren't dividing by a negative. We were dividing by a positive number here. We divided it into a negative number, but we didn't divide by a negative number, and that's the difference. All right, last one here, a few steps for this one. We'll combine 5x, 3x would be 8x plus 7 greater than negative, or 2x minus 5, we cannot combine. Okay, so we're going to have to do a lot of flip-flopping here. So you got some choices. We could start with the x's. We could start with the regular numbers. It really doesn't matter. I'll start with the x's. I'll do minus 2x, minus 2x, 6x, and then here I'll do minus 7, and I'll do minus 7. Put my symbol in there. That would be negative 12. Okay, I'm dividing by positive 6. So my answer is going to be x greater than negative 2. Okay. Now this one's an interesting one because if you did it the other way, you actually did flip the sign around. But it still would end, I'll put this off to the side to show you that it'll be the same thing. X is greater than negative 2. Okay. Let me show you that it's going to be the same thing. Let me start back over again. Because this is important, because if you did it the other way, I want to make sure that you understand. Even if you didn't, I want you to see how this is working here. Okay, if we just go back to what we had before, we combine these things together. We said 8x plus 7 less than 2x minus 5. Now before what did I do? I did minus 2. Okay. Now let's say we did it a different way. Let's say I did minus 8, which would be fine. And I did minus 8. And I got, what? Negative 6x. And then over here it would have been plus 5. And plus 5 would be positive 12. Now I have this. Now if you notice, I have a negative 6 that I'm going to be dividing by here. So if I divide by negative 6, and I divide by negative 6, that's going to cancel. My x is going to be still on this side. Since I'm dividing by a negative, my sign needs to flip, and then 12 divided by negative 6 is negative 2. Now look what we have. If I turn around what I have here and write it the other direction, it's going to read x less than negative 2, which is exactly what I had right there. So you could do it either way is fine. But in some cases, like if the second way I did it, I had to divide by a negative. The first way I didn't have to divide by the negative. The second one I flipped a sign, the first one I didn't. But as you can see, your answer ends up being the same thing either way. Hopefully this is enough to get you going on this part here. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.